You know how in every match there's that one guy where you just think, a bot would have done better. Funny thing is, there was a time in Counter-Strike when there were no bots at all. Zero. You wanted to play. You had to find real people. No players online. Enjoy staring at the main menu and loading screen. Over time, that changed. First, the community hacked together their own janky but lovable bots. Then the devs stepped in with official ones. After that, we got Source, Go, CS2, nav meshes, scripts, co-op missions, Danger Zone. And suddenly, bots stopped being just a slot filler and turned into a legit tool for practice, warm-ups, and learning. Today I'm going through the full evolution of bots in Counter-Strike. From the days when they simply didn't exist, to the point where they started playing better than half your solo queue teammates and actually holding proper positions. We'll see how they changed with the game, how they helped players grow, and where this is all heading with AI-controlled bots in the future. So get comfy. Time to remember how we used to laugh at bots, and then quietly started learning from them. At the start, things were absolutely wild. Early Counter-Strike was just a mod for Half-Life in the late 90s, early 2000s. No single-player mode, no training with bots, no offline practice. Only real people. You want to play? Find a server. No server? Tough luck. If there weren't enough people in the room, there simply wasn't a match. Nobody said, let's at least play with bots, because bots literally didn't exist. That's the environment the first generation of CS players grew up in. No warm-ups against bots, no scripted trainings. See the promo code on the screen. Don't wait for a lucky chance. Luck is already on your side. Enter the promo code on our website and collect top loot from GGDrop. Have fun hunting. At some point, the community got tired of waiting for the devs to bless us with bots and collectively said, fine, we'll do it ourselves. That's when the era of custom bots in CS 1.3 to 1.6 began. Names like PODBot, IvPBot, and JoeBOT started popping up everywhere. How did you install them? You'd grab a zip from some shady forum, extract it into your CS Strike folder, spend half an hour digging through configs, launch the game, and pray it didn't crash on startup. For their time, these bots were both ridiculous and magical. They could follow predefined waypoints around the map, sometimes even hold positions, pretend they understood where the bomb site was. In reality, it often looked like a comedy show. A bot would get stuck in a doorway, try to jump onto a box that was clearly unreachable, or sprint in the opposite direction of the bomb. And still, people loved them. The community basically added to CS something the game didn't have at all: the ability to play and practice offline against at least some kind of opponent. Yes, the intelligence was janky, weird, and often hilarious, but for its time, it was priceless. Once custom bots properly settled into CS 1.6, a new minigame appeared. Not just playing against them, but actually configuring them. It was like a separate esports discipline. Who can survive the config files the longest without uninstalling the game? For bots to move around the map, they needed waypoints, navigation points baked into special files. Without those, a bot would just stand at spawn and stare at a wall like it was contemplating life. So for every popular map, the community made its own waypoint files. Some were carefully crafted, others turned into death traps where bots happily jumped into pits and off ledges. In the configs, you could tweak their reaction time, accuracy, and aggression. On the lowest settings, they were basically walking target dummies. On the highest, they turned into discount aimbots that felt you through boxes, smoke, and bad decisions. Players used custom bots for pretty much everything, warming up aim on classic aim maps, practicing positions on maps like D-Dust 2, D-Nuke, D-Inferno, simulating site executes. You alone versus 5 bots on a bomb site, good luck breaking that setup. Sure, they didn't know advanced utility, complex fakes, or proper team play, but for a lot of players, this was the first taste of structured practice. At some point, Valve realized the community had been doing their homework for them and went, alright, let's do this properly at least once. In 2004, Counter-Strike Condition Zero dropped, and with it came the first fully official bots built into CS. Several studios worked on CZ over time, but the final version was finished by Turtle Rock Studios. The bots they shipped became the foundation for what we later saw in CS, Source, and beyond. These weren't the janky forum downloads anymore. This was a full system. Difficulty levels, map awareness, hostages, grenades, semi-decent decision-making. Compared to PODBot and other community solutions, CZ bots felt almost grown up. Sure, they still did dumb stuff, got stuck or randomly rushed into chaos, but for the first time, you could feel a serious attempt to make AI a core part of the game, not just a fan-made plugin from some dusty forum thread. Most importantly, these official bots laid the groundwork for everything that came after. The behavior, nav systems, and logic we later saw in Source and Go all trace back to what started in Condition Zero. After Condition Zero came out, its official bots slowly started sneaking into Classic 1.6 as well. It's not like Valve made a big announcement saying, "Here, have ZBots for 1.6." But the community quickly figured out that if the tech exists in the engine, there's a way to enable it. Soon enough, there were 1.6 builds bundled with ZBots, launch parameters, and step-by-step guides on how to use CZ bots in your CS. As a result, some players in 1.6 still ran fan-made bots, like PODBot, while others were already playing with semi-official ZBots ported over from Condition Zero. For a lot of 1.6 players, this was their first taste of bots that actually looked somewhat legit straight, out of the box. You launch an offline game, type a couple of commands, and you've got a decent sparring partner. At the same time, custom bots didn't disappear. People who were used to PODBot and their carefully tuned waypoints kept using them. Community bots were often more flexible. You could fine-tune difficulty, reaction time, and playstyle exactly how you wanted. So in 1.6, we ended up with a weird but comfy setup. You had a choice. You could play with official ZBots or with your favorite janky community bots from the old days. Either way, they helped you warm up, train your aim, and avoid just staring at the main menu while waiting for friends to log in. Next up, Source. In 2004 Counter-Strike, Source arrived. New engine, new graphics, new bugs, and of course, a new generation of bots. Compared to 1.6, the whole system looked way more polished. Instead of hacked-together waypoints and config rituals, you had proper nav files, navigation meshes built directly into the game. You could enter nav editing mode, run around the map, teach bots the routes, save it, and they'd actually understand where to go and which ledges were a bad life decision. Sometimes it even felt like they were overdoing it. On higher difficulty, they could tap you with a headshot from a range where you barely saw a pixel. Other times, they'd mindlessly funnel through a single choke point straight into your crosshair, like they all signed a contract to donate you eco-frags. For regular players, Source bots were the first taste of something genuinely useful. You could walk through maps with them, practice executes, run retakes, and actually feel like you were training, not just bullying broken AI. Now we're in CSGO territory. The game launched in 2012, visuals changed, weapons changed, balance changed, but one thing stayed: bots. They were there from day one and quickly became a built-in part of almost every mode, from casual to practice. The most important feature was the takeover mechanic. You die in a round, hit a key, and boom, you're now controlling a bot. Suddenly, you're not just stuck watching your team throw the round, you're back in the server trying to fix it. That alone saved countless matchmaking games. Bots were used pretty much everywhere in CSGO. In regular matchmaking, they filled in for disconnected players. In casual, they kept servers full so no one had to play 3 versus 2. In practice modes, you could spawn a whole squad of them just to warm up your aim. Their personality was unstable. Sometimes a bot would tap someone with a Desert Eagle from a range that made you question your own existence. Other times that same bot would walk mid with the bomb through a smoke into 5 opponents and die without firing a single bullet. Classic Go experience. One round bot Jim clutches 1 versus 3. The next round he forgets that bomb sites exist. Over the years, Valve kept tweaking bot behavior with patches, adjusting reaction time, aggression, and positioning. Some updates made them feel way too strong, others turned them into total potatoes. And at one point, bots were completely removed from 5 versus 5 competitive matchmaking. If a teammate left, you just played down a man. Some enthusiasts went even further and wrote plugins and scripts that changed how bots behaved. More aggression, more passive holds, stricter setups, role-based behavior. You could turn a bot into a dedicated AWPer on mid or a permanent anchor on a bomb site. As a result, bots stopped being just whatever the game ships with, turned into a toolbox. If you wanted dumb moving targets for warm-up, you could have that. If you wanted something that punished every mistake and forced you to play properly, you could build that too. In many ways, it was nav meshes, scripts, and custom maps that turned bots into a real development tool. Not just an AI that kinda plays, but a system the community could shape to whatever level it needed. Up to this point, bots were mostly stand-ins and practice dummies. But at some stage, Valve decided, what if bots weren't just backups, but the main bad guys? That's where special modes, operations, and co-op missions came in. In CSGO, bots stopped being just the guy you control after your teammate disconnects and became actual content. Co-op missions and operations, Guardian mode where 2 or 3 of you hold off waves of enemies, scripted scenarios where bots attack, flank, push together, and sometimes look way braver than your average matchmaking teammate. Operations took it even further. Bots there were used as proper scripted enemies. Sometimes you're clearing a building, sometimes escorting hostages, sometimes defending an area from repeated attacks. For players used only to take site, defend site, it felt almost like a different game, a kind of PvE built on top of CS gunplay. Danger Zone also brushed against bots, mainly as an experiment. In standard matchmaking, it's meant to be player versus player, but with console commands and community plugins, people built their own PvE scenarios. Survival-style training, custom maps where bots roam the zone like angry chickens with rifles. And that brings us to CS2. New engine, new smokes, new feel, but the whole bot situation is still messy in its own special way. Under the hood, the logic is familiar. Bots are still driven by navigation meshes and scripted behavior. Valve's documentation on bot behavior trees notes that the same system is used for CSGO and certain CS2 modes like Deathmatch, so it's clearly an evolution, not a complete reboot. From a regular player's perspective, CS2 bots feel like a continuation of the Geo era. They're still good enough for basic warm-up and practice in offline or custom games. They no longer act as a safety net in ranked, and that's exactly what frustrates a lot of players. How useful they are still depends heavily on how good the nav mesh on the map is and how you configure them through the console. So in CS2, bots ended up in this weird position. They're gone from serious competitive play. But if you want to run drills, test lineups, or just farm some AI in a private lobby, all the tools are still there, working more or less the same way you got used to in CSGO. Now let's peek a bit into the future. The bots we've known for years are basically scripts on top of a nav mesh. They follow rules, fake decision-making, and occasionally do something that looks smart by accident. But with modern AI, there's a good chance that a CS bot will eventually stop being just an NPC and turn into something closer to a personal training partner. Imagine a bot that watches your demos and adapts to your playstyle, remembers how you like to peek mid, which angles you always clear, and where you keep messing up, changes behavior not by easy, normal, hard, but by role. Today it's a coach, tomorrow it's an aggro aimer, the next day it's a perfect anchor who never leaves the site. If AI starts copying player behavior, it might also copy the worst parts. Dumb peeks, pointless pushes, toxic chat, full send rush B with no utility. Nobody wants to load up a practice server and get flamed by a bot that top frags and still types report team in all chat. Either way, the direction is pretty clear. Bots will get smarter and more personalized. In the best case scenario, they become the teammates everyone dreams about. They don't rage, don't leave the game, adapt to you, and actually help you improve. As long as they don't learn how to call a surrender vote the second you miss your first shot. We can joke forever that the bot plays better than your teammate, but the reality is simple. Bots raised a whole generation of CS players. Some started on LAN, some on ranked. Others spent their first 100 hours farming bots on Dust 2 and only then dared to queue online. And this story isn't over. As AI gets smarter, bots will move closer to being real coaches and sparring partners instead of just computer opponents. But one thing will probably never change. There will always be that round where you die, the camera switches to a bot, and he somehow does exactly what you were supposed to do. And you sit there thinking, why does he have the AWP and not me?